Three, two, one. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in. Welcome back to not only the Rem and Sam podcast, but the NBA season. Let's go, people. Basketball is back. We were dabbling in some preseason watch parties a little bit ago, but that doesn't even count. I don't even remember it. This is it. The NBA has finally returned, and let me make sure we're going, and we got the mics up and running. Everything's unmuted. Make no mistake, people, if you've been locked into the previous streams, there have been technical difficulties, and we were trying to get things, that was preseason. We were trying to get things cleaned up before the regular season. And hopefully now the season is starting, we'll be locked in. But it's game one. It is a long season. So who knows? Maybe like some of these NBA teams, the Rem and Sam podcast will take a little bit to get the IT stuff under their belt. But basketball is about to fire up. I don't really know what's going on in the game right now. There was a musical performance before the game, getting everybody hyped up. Was that Shabuzi out there? Out the court. I couldn't tell if that was in the arena or outside. I think it might have been outside. And I also don't, it was definitely Shabuzi, right? That was Tipsy. That was being played. This has been our best year of avoiding country music possible. No disrespect, chat, to any of the country music people out there, but it just hasn't been in the rotation. And maybe for, 0 minutes, but Shabuzi has been pretty unavoidable this year. I mean, that song is pretty popular. And we heard him on the Beyonce album as well, too, from earlier this year. And I was kind of, oh, okay. I like that guy. Obviously, like we said, we're not going to be probably dabbling into any of the country stuff as of right now. But if we were, Shabuzi would be first up. I feel like he's probably got some collabs with some other guys that we've really been into as well. Did he do a Big the Plug collab? Let's give Shabuzi Spotify. Is this going to be bad for the algorithm? We don't even want Spotify thinking that we're in there. So he dropped Where Have I Been Isn't Where I'm Going this year. Dropped it in May. Yeah, had features from Paul, I don't know how you say this last name, Cathan? Noah Cyrus, and then Big, our guy Big X. Shout out. But I'm assuming this album is going to be in contention for the Grammy nominations in its respective categories. Is this album of the year contender? Like we said, folks, we're not into country music, but I mean, Shabuzi's cool. This album was everywhere, so it wouldn't be surprised if it was in the mix. I mean, he definitely submitted it for that category if we're guessing, but I know it's going to be pretty stacked with some of the pop albums this year. We got Billie Eilish. Is Taylor Swift back in the mix? I forget. She's re-releasing and dropping albums. I don't even know what's what anymore. So I don't know if she's in the mix. Beyonce, like we said earlier, she dropped. She's in the mix. Charlie XCX. Too many other people with great albums this year. Will Future get nominated just for Album of the Year straight up? Who knows? But Shabuzi, I bet Shabuzi in consideration before Future. I don't know if there's an album experience, the start to finish for this one. 37 minutes, maybe right there, that's the win. But there's also no diss tracks on this one. I don't think. So I assume maybe the highlights from the Future album were a little bit more of a peak. But here we go, people. Celtics versus Knicks. We're getting ready to get fired up. And I saw some information earlier as well, too, on why the Karl Anthony Towns may have been made. Some inside information on why the Timberwolves may have made the Karl Towns trade. I'll tell you about that coming up here in a second. But we've also got, the NFL slate happened this past weekend and some other big news as well. Horford, they're getting the rings, the NBA champions. And it's kind of annoying from just looking at another team like this that just won the title and how, I guess, how much of a chip on the shoulder they do have. Because there is just like a general uncomfortableness with the perception. I mean, I'm sure you guys saw the Jaylen Brown interview with Stephen A. Stephen A, of course, on First Take. I didn't see anything about the Stephen A on First Take outside of what they showed. They played a clip of it in the interviews, so I saw that. But outside of that, I haven't seen anything else. But apparently, he was on First Take, and I don't know what the segment was that led him into this. And there was some unnamed source that texted him and said something about Jaylen Brown that Jaylen Brown didn't like. And, it was like crazy stuff, too. I don't remember exactly what the quote was, but He called him, I mean, unmarketable and all that stuff that we've heard floating around. But there was some stuff where he was like, people don't like him, and this is why he's not the guy, and the locker room split and all this stuff. And it's like, oh, okay, I don't even think, I mean, the unmarkability stuff and all that, but I don't think it was ever from a likability standpoint. I mean, this guy, they laid it all out in the interview as well. And Jaylen Brown said it, with him starting Black Wall Street and all these other things. Like, I mean, Jaylen Brown has always been a super upstanding, like, good dude. He's always been number one. First team All-NBA, good dudes. Jaylen Brown is on the list. Was he a president of the Players Association or something like that? Is he old enough to be? Do you have to be 35 to be the president of the Players Association? But he is a guy that would be in the mix at some point in his career if he hasn't been already. Carries himself really well. So all that stuff was like right away. I didn't feel like, I don't know if fans necessarily watching that show and people involved in that would necessarily take that quote with super seriousness, because especially after what we just watched with the Celtics in the finals last year. And I mean, Jaylen Brown himself winning the finals MVP, but taking his game to the level that it did. Because again, I think the off the court stuff is literally the one thing about Jaylen Brown that, and the thing with the sneakers, the sales is one thing about culture and a locker room thing. And the locker room stuff, I think, has always been the thing with him that's been good. Do we need to check the tapes? I'm trying to think if we ever said anything about Jaylen Brown in the locker room. We get carried away sometimes with these storylines, but we're working on it, people. But Jaylen Brown going on Stephen A's show and addressing those comments that were made face to face, and right away the Celtics at home, Derek White weighing in at 3. Oh no, people. Oh no. We were saying in the preseason that maybe we actually do need to be afraid of this Boston Celtics team. I know it doesn't seem like anybody is. But again, now they know what it takes, and they have a chip on their shoulder, and they're running it back. It's the same team. And they're still at the phase of their careers where they can be adding things to their game. I mean, can Jaylen Brown go? If Jaylen Brown can go left, lock him in. Brunson driving to the rim. There we go. The Knicks taking the lead. And no Porzingis here for a while for Boston. Though for the regular season, I mean, that doesn't even matter. With the depth that they have, they're going to be fine. Obviously, in the front court, not ideal. Most of the depth is in the back. Pause. But without Porzingis, they should be okay. No Mitchell Robinson and Precious Achiuwa for the Knicks. So they made the Karl Towns trade just in time to get a center for opening day. We see him standing out of the three-point line already, not preparing to offensive rebound in any way when Brunson drives to the rim. But, I mean, I guess, can Brunson rebound? Hart's out there. Hart can rebound. Karl Towns doesn't necessarily need to do it. But Jaylen Brown went on Stephen A's show to address the comments, but then also had a shirt that said, "State your source," which, can we get that shirt? IT, we'll make a couple of shirts up. Jaylen Brown, if you're listening to this, does he have AirPods in while he's playing the game? Can we zoom in? We'll take shirts if you put them up for merch. We'll buy them for sure. State your source. But, we don't really, confronting it in a mature way as well, too. He wasn't like Twitter ranting on Stephen A's show about it. I mean, and again, those were like detrimental things that were being said. Like, I'm fighting words. I know it's Twitter, or texting and unnamed source and all that stuff. And, that was a part of his case in going on the show and defending the whole situation was, it's just like, what are these unnamed sources doing? Like, this guy, there's no way that this person would, and I totally agree with him. There is just no way that this person would say this, because these things aren't really, I think, true. And Stephen A said something about multiple people have said this or whatever. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like, and I know there's been some stuff about the stuff with the basketball, can him and Tatum where, on their rise, it's like how people are going to be trying to break them up. And, as NBA fans as well, too, you see a team like the Celtics forming, and with two young superstars, we can't see that, it's going to win a title if it stays together long enough, which it did. So as non-Celtics fans, we have to do our due diligence and try to break that team up. And we do it with any superstar team. You got to plant the seeds. You got to plant the rumblings. You got to try to get these guys to request trades, to not think this stuff's going to work. You got to make fun of them in the comments. That's the only way that your team can win. You have to get them to trade themselves to your team. And Jaylen Brown, I thought he handled it all really well. And with the way that he was playing in the finals last year and in the playoffs, with the summer that Tatum had, which I think Tatum is going to have a good season. Maybe he takes him a second to get going as well. But I think that Tatum by the end will be back to the Tatum, and or close to. He'll be in the realm of the Tatum that we know and love. And again, we still think that these guys can be getting better. So that's what I would mean as well too, is that we would still feel comfortable about how Tatum is playing at this stage in his career. But that being said, with the way Jaylen Brown is carrying himself and with the improvement that he is showing as a basketball player, and I don't want to, just start throwing stuff out game one, because again, we're going to try to clean up our act this year, people. We're going to try to not to just get carried away with talking carelessly about takes, and we don't want to contradict ourselves as well too, because I know we've been on here at times defending Tatum over a guy like Doncic and saying, just the defensive stuff alone. It's like, well, the team that if I was building a team, the team that I would like to build, would I just take a guy like Tatum, knowing that, what Doncic can do offensively is maybe more impressive, and he can take much more of a workload as well, be responsible for more, make up for more. You can have less. We get the offensive stuff that he can bring to the table, but the two-way dynamic of Tatum is, for me, something that you would have to go, hey, maybe that's a little bit more valuable than what Doncic has. But Jaylen Brown, man, I mean, these are just all franchise player type moves, guys that, and it's just, guys that are always striving to be the best as well, and you always want those guys at the forefront of your organization, and the way that he's making an effort to do it, but the maturity at which he's approaching it, I think is really great. So I don't know, like we're saying, with our new reformed act for the NBA season, I don't know if we'll ever say that, like, hey, when is Jaylen Brown, when do we have to start talking about him as over Tatum as the best player in the Celtics? Because, again, that's just sloppy sports media. Pause. Maybe we want some more sloppy sports media, but that's just, the careless sports media takes that get floated out there on these TV shows, and that people just carelessly pander around because, and you don't really think them through either. You just start saying them, and you don't even know what repercussions that they could have. So we don't want to, we do want to sow dissension in the Celtics, but, again, we're reformed media guys, so we won't just be that aggressive in week one and say, right away after a Stephen A interview and not even watching a game, that Jaylen Brown is the best player in the Celtics. But let's just say I'm excited to see how this season plays out. Karl Towns with the spinning away baseline jumper, post up. Karl Towns, how long will it be into his Knicks career before he gets a look going to the basket and not take a jump shot? Should FanDuel have done a prop this year on who can lead the Knicks in post-ups? I bet Brunson led him in post-ups last year, because Randall was out as well, too. How many games did Randall miss? Missed a good chunk. If I'm not mistaken, we can fact check here. Mitchell Robinson, were they sneaky posting up Mitchell Robinson a lot? Holiday not getting it to go. The Holiday fall-off season? Let's hope it doesn't happen this year. We like Drew Holiday. Again, the problem with the Celtics is there's too many likable guys on this team. And speaking of Julius Randle, we're going to get to see him later tonight in Wolves at the Lakers. I think that game's in LA, right? I know that somebody was favored by 1.5, or just one. I don't know how the Karl Towns trade affected that line. Bridges getting up a shot. Is that his first look? The three is off the mark. It's 12-13. Doesn't really seem like the Knicks are super locked in. Brown switching the three right away. And he said in the interview as well, too, he was talking to that guy like he was doing a monologue from Gladiator. I'm pretty sure he told the unnamed source at one point that he will get his revenge in this life or the next. But he also said that he was locked in this summer. And he was really happy with what he was able to accomplish off the court as well, too. He made sure to mention that. So that kind of stuff not necessarily weighing on your mind while you're playing. You'll take every little advantage you get when you try to compete for a title. And Jaylen Brown, the takeover has started. Getting the rebound, getting into the rim. Is that 5 straight points now for Jaylen Brown? Posting up Bridges over Derek White. Now, see, you would think that that would be the size advantage. And when you're trading for a wing like Bridges, you know, versus a guard, you think you get that switch. And Bridges is not necessarily a post-up cat either. We get that. He's more of a spot-up rotational shooter. Maybe can do a little stuff off the dribble. But a little fall away over Derek White. Again, one of the better defenders in the league. So it's an extreme example to say you can't post up over a guard. But in terms of this Celtics-Knicks matchup for the playoffs, I mean, that's going to be something to keep in mind, that switchability there. And obviously it is for the Celtics, but the Knicks' ability to attack that with Bridges on the court, if you're not able to switch him out onto those smaller players, just something to keep in mind. But I do feel like this matchup is much more realistic for a playoff matchup than what we've got in the past couple of years. I'm trying to remember what we got the last couple of years for opening season games. So last year we got back-to-back Western Conference matchups. Lakers, Nuggets. I remember that one, but I couldn't remember who the late game was. But Suns, Warriors was the late game last year. And the Lakers, it's like, I wouldn't necessarily say wishful thinking. I would say a step maybe below that. Like, it is, I would say it is slightly more realistic than wishful that they could have made a conference title run last year. But regardless, the Lakers, Nuggets, conference finals matchup. And then Warriors, Suns as well, too. I get with the roster that the Suns had put together, but the Warriors making a conference finals run would have seemed like a bit odd as well. The Nuggets would have really been the only team that would have been locked in there for that. But if we can get into these last couple of years here, we'll see if we can check what it was. So we had Sixers, Celtics 2 years ago, Lakers, Warriors. And the Sixers have always had that Embiid, not just the playoff question marks. Again, you know, we're reformed. We're not carelessly throwing out Embiid as bad in the playoff takes, but the health thing is just something you got to keep in the back of your mind. Next, Nets, Bucks 3 years ago, Warriors, Lakers as well. So, again, this just feels like, I mean, these are probably, 1 and 2 for conference title odds in the East? I don't know where the Bucks and the Sixers are at right now. Does FanDuel have that up live during the game? And I would assume the Sixers would be below the Knicks. Just from trying to drive the odds standpoint. Yeah, this is the 1 and 2 teams in the conference. So I feel like going back over the last couple of years, this doesn't happen that often. And there is a little bit of balance there in that tier 2 behind the Celtics. If the Celtics are kind of in tier 1 by themselves, just won the final, so they have earned that right. McBride off the bench. Knicks down 7. Missoula timeout right away. You can't let Miles McBride get going. That's why Joe Missoula is such a good basketball coach. But down 7, they're going to need a spark. And McBride, they're expecting more from him this year. So a little bit, you know, sometimes it's scary, like teaching your kids how to drive. You know, you can be in the car with them, but at some point, you got to let them take the car by themselves. And at some point, Miles McBride has got to get more minutes. He's not just going to be the guy that checks in at the end of blowouts and super large leads and just looks good against third and fourth units. He's actually going to have to get some run against some guys. But again, you know, Thibodeau, with running his guys into the ground last year, there were some games with some injuries. He got to play some of the bench. McBride, I think it was McBride in those minutes that ended up sort of giving them extra faith. if we go back, so the COVIDs, so 2019, that would have been the year that turned into the COVID season. That was Pelicans Raptors to start, and then Lakers Clippers. So yeah, not a lot of title expectations over there. Year before that, Sixers, Celtics, and then Thunder, Warrior in 2018. So would that have been like a Paul George, Russell Westbrook? That was a good game as well, too. 108 to 100. 19,000 strong. Shout out to OG Oracle Arena. And then the Sixers dominating the Celtics going back to 2018. And it feels a lot more, again, with the Lakers Timberwolves tonight, the Lakers aren't in your top, they're not a home court, they're not expected to be a home court advantage team for the playoffs. I mean, that would be nuts if they ended up getting that high. So again, I think you could go, in the playoffs, LeBron and Davis, could they win some playoff series? But this is definitely more of a long shot option to say that a playoff preview for sure. Again, I think both these teams being in the playoffs, reasonable picks. But I feel like this Knicks Celtics has a much better chance to be a much higher end rematch at some point in the season. Obviously, if we get the Liberty Aces, they meet in the playoffs a little bit early, then the Aces unfortunately get bounced out. Though I don't know if they would have been able to stop Nafisha Collier and Courtney Williams. Kayla McBride as well too, phenomenal in that game. Which have we been on since that game wrapped up? We were on for some of the other games. Pause. The wrapped up, but we were on for some of the other games. And I think we will be back on the Sundays more consistently, people. Stay tuned for that. And with just the NBA in general firing up, we are going to be on quite a bit more than normal. Again, we're reformed, we're serious, we're locked in for this NBA season. We're not going anywhere. But that series, I mean, probably the best. Is that the best basketball championship series of the decade? I'm trying to remember what we've had for the NBA. And forgive me for the WNBA for not remembering, what your other finals looked like. I get the finals last year, the Aces ended up winning. I think that was only in 4 as well, too. I think the Liberty only stole 1 off of them. But for basketball, last year, Celtics Mavs, and that's really, I think, what hurt the Celtics more than just the fact that they played maybe some lesser competition than people thought, was just the fact that the games were not that memorable. If they had a super rewatchable final series and just all-time drama and great performances and some buzzer beater stuff, but I mean, literally Porzingis stepped out on the court in the first quarter of game 1, and the Celtics were like immediately up by 20 in the series. It was like, they have literally no answer for Porzingis, and the series is just over, and we're in the first quarter. And the Mavs were feisty, and you can never count out Doncic. I get it, but I mean, that series was pretty much called game like 8 minutes in. So not necessarily the most riveting action. I know, again, with the COVID series, and then Celtics versus Warriors as well too was pretty entertaining. I think that's a sneaky good series. That's the Curry Finals MVP series, so there's definitely the nostalgia factor of that. But also Curry having, some iconic performances and he did have those iconic performances in the game 1, or in the first series when Iguodala won the Finals MVP. They beat LeBron, no Kyrie and Kevin Love, but the Warriors were able to still get their first title win. But if you were looking at those series like TV shows where it was like, which games are the most dramatic, would you sneaky take? I don't know. I feel like maybe there was some blowouts in that series. And yeah, Tatum wasn't very good as well too. And again, no Kyrie and Kevin Love, but LeBron. hard to pass up a show with LeBron in it, if we had to take that series to rewatch. But Raptors Warriors, does that count for this decade? I think that might have been 2019. I guess Bucks Suns is pretty good. Bucks Suns was a good title. Should we look up the WNBA one here real quick? Because I feel like was probably the only series in the finals recently to go the distance as well. None of the NBA ones have really gone 7 like that. 16 would have been the last one to go 7, right? Celtics up 10 as the first quarter is ending. And maybe the season is over. They ended the finals in 8 minutes. Maybe they're just going to end the season in 8 minutes. Oh, the Knicks are the one team in the East that can keep up with this team? Well, Bridges is out here bricking shots. And they're going to be down double digits right away. We're hopeless. It's a dynasty, people. So we got Lakers, Bucks, Warriors, Nuggets, and Celtics as the teams. We didn't even mention Nuggets Heat. That's how forgettable that series was. So outside of Lakers Heat did have some good games in it. Obviously, you get an iconic Jimmy Butler performance. LeBron Davis is awesome in that as well, too. But it is the bubble, so the atmosphere is weird. No crowds, a bit of a bummer. And the Liberty crowd was, I mean, absolutely, both crowds were fantastic. But I guess if we're just addressing that Game 5 specifically, that Liberty crowd, did Holly Rowe call it the best in the league? I mean, come on, the Aces fans, you got to give them a shout-out. And the Fever fans, you got to give them a shout-out because they were just selling out arenas left and right all season. They would just take over other teams' arenas and then just make them size up the place that they were playing. It's the only fan base in the league that was doing that, so you have to give them their props. So the Aces, yeah, back-to-back series wins for the Aces. Beat the Liberty in 4 and then beat the Connecticut Sun in 4 as well, too. Oh, the Chicago Sky, yeah, they beat the Mercury in 4 in 2021. And then in 2020, the Storm. Oh, they swept the Aces, unfortunately. The Sky versus the Mercury. I do remember a little bit of that one because that's the Candace Parker run there at the end. And just her pulling that team to victory. Skylar Diggins. Oh, this is the Mercury team. Taurasi, Skylar Diggins. Kalia Cooper? Wasn't she the finals MVP? I could be wrong, but from entertainment value, I mean, you're getting a couple of overtime games and a couple of close ones. The only real blowout was what? Game 3? Game 2? Holiday gets to the rim, and it's 17-32, people. This is going to be a short stream. It's a yawner. Is McBride going to be the only one hitting shots? Sidestep 3, he rattles it in. And it's a 4-point play to Courtney Williams. Miles McBride is carrying the Knicks to keeping them within double digits. I guess he could cut it to 11 here. Get him in the range. Drawing the foul. Was that Hauser? Hauser with just one of the absolute worst closeouts that you'll ever see. Literally jumping, springing into him from about 7 or 8 feet away. Had no actual chance of blocking the shot, so just went ahead and threw his body into Miles McBride. Miles McBride makes the three-pointer anyways. Misses the free throw. Deuce. Dropping a deuce on the free throw line. Unbelievable. Tatum, the playmaking, the ball movement of the Celtics. Cornette, unfortunately. Holiday, who forgot who he was throwing lobs to. It's just Luke Cornette. Holiday back on the other end with the 3. Celtics by 15. 90 seconds left in the first quarter. 8 of 14 for the 3 this year. In the first quarter to start. The Celtics are going to sweep the league. They're going to win 60 games. This is incredible. I don't know why we doubted them. The first team All-NBA is just going to be the Celtics starting lineup. Cameron Payne is in here for the Knicks. Oh, man, why did we believe this team was going to win? What were we thinking? The Celtics literally have Derek White and Drew Holiday. And the Knicks have Cameron Payne and Miles McBride, and we're like, yep. Oh, and Hauser. I mean, Hauser would be the third best player on the Knicks. It's 18-20. They're going to double him up before the first quarter is over. Are we just going to go rewatch some old games, people? I don't know. This game is over. No, of course not. The NBA. You're going to watch the whole game. And we're probably going to be acting much differently a little bit from now. But, wow. Dominance here. The defense is swarming. Towns is not going to... You know Towns is not going to take over the game and assert himself. Which ultimately still puts you in the same place that you were last year. That was a terrible trade. The Wolves won the trade. It's unbelievable. The season is falling into place in the first quarter. Towns posting up over Cornette. Oh, there we go. There we go. Towns cut it to 18. He's got a look on his face. Did they make Towns mad? Oh, no. Where does the Towns revenge face rank versus the Brady revenge face? Is it number 2? Brady 1, Towns 2? Is that the only one better? Why is Towns scowling like this? It's 21 now. Boston just can't stop scoring. Miles McBride, of course, is going to be the one taking the shot at the end of the first quarter. Step back over Cornette, and he should be, baby. He's the only one making them. Miles McBride is the only one making them. The Celtics from half court almost get it to go. Wow, so Miles McBride able to cut it to 19. When the Celtics are about to go to 30, Miles McBride is the one that pulls the Knicks right back in. Unbelievable. He has to be leading them in scoring through the first quarter. What were the FanDuel props on that? First quarter scoring leader? He might be for the game as well, too. OG Anunoby with 2. McBride with 7. Brunson has 6. Brunson's 3 for 3. Towns is 2 for 3. The greatest shooting big man of all time.
When it comes to your finances, listen to the nerd.
Tatum with a solid 15. Brown with 5. And 2 for 5 from the quarter. IT, cut out the first 30 minutes of this. Jaylen Brown, he's washed. Tatum is great. Tatum is having his revenge year. He's going for his finals MVP. Tatum is leading the game in scoring. They need 2 Miles McBrides out there to keep up with Jason Tatum. Cornette 1 for 2 from the half court. And there was I saw that there was a new potential rule change for the G League that heave attempts, like half court attempts, don't count as shot attempts. But I also saw something on that the line was like 30 some feet where it was considered a heave. It was like the line was just inside the circle usually, or wherever that half court logo extends out to. That line for the heave attempts was usually kind of right near the end of that. And I feel like guys are just like Trae Young and Steph Curry. Shall we flip that around? Steph Curry and Trae Young are shooting threes from that distance. Well, Steph's a little more selective. Trae Young's the one jacking him up from that distance. He's like, well, Steph will do it. It's like, well, Steph does it when he's, made like 4 in a row, and he's also the greatest shooting big man of all time. And he also picks his spots really, really well. He doesn't usually just like run the pick and roll and just go, well, I'm open, I should shoot it. But it's like, yeah, well, you're 37 feet away. They're probably not going to hedge out that much. But first quarter over. Knicks season is over. Towns trade machine? Can we start? Can they trade Towns this year? It's the first quarter of Knicks Celtics. It took us about 30 minutes of watch time to get to the Google. Can the Knicks trade Karl Anthony Towns this season? What is the restrictions? Because I think the only like year-long restrictions for trades are if you sign them to a contract, or like I think a contract extension. But a trade, I don't know what's possible. We're gonna have to go to the trade machine. I thought we could just search it real quick. I thought the Google AI could just tell us yes or no. You wish the Google AI could just give you answers, but that's not what it's there for. Google, I don't think you need your 20 nuclear power plants to power your AI. I think you need to figure out how to make your AI good and then figure out how to power it. Don't you want to power a good product? And the idea of, I don't know if you guys saw this story as well, but I forget what the number was. It was a crazy number. Let me see if I can find it. I want to say it was in the teens? No, not that much. 7. Google's going to build 7 nuclear reactors to power their AI plants. And it's not even a good AI. So Towns is on the $49 million deal right now for this season. Oh, look at that. Giannis's trade contract is just as much. So let's do a hypothetical Knicks for Giannis trade. Towns for Giannis, just to see if they can trade, just to see what the rules are on Towns. Real quick. So Towns cannot be traded to a team aggregated with other players from his team because 2 months have not passed since he was traded for. He can only be traded away by a team. He can only be traded away to a team by himself and other non-player assets, i.e. draft picks, cash consideration. Restrictions expire November 26, 2024. So come Thanksgiving times, the Knicks fans can be thankful that they've traded Karl Anthony Towns for some draft picks and a decent role player. But for right now, they're just going to have to suffer through the fact that the Celtics are a much better team. Though Bridges, he gets hot from 3. I mean, the Celtics are just bombing threes right now, so the Knicks have it in them to catch up doing that. Especially if Towns starts shooting them, which he does. Clanks it off the side of the backboard. Holiday's going to come down and set up a decent possession and get a good look. Because he's not Towns. Towns now doubling Horford. Oh, the defensive pressure by Towns. Who's number 4 for the Knicks? Who's this bench guy? It's the second quarter and we've already got our first. Who is that? Plus with the DiVincenzo trade, you know, it's another like wing spot that's potentially gone. Who is this? I can't see very good. Small screen, people. Oh, is that the rookie? Is that our guy? Oh, now I feel bad that I don't know who he is. We've only seen him in the YouTube highlights and in the French jersey. And I don't know if I remember how to say his name right. It's not Didaye, but that's how it looks like. Diate? Paycom Diate? Okay, I'm much more optimistic now because at first I was like, now are they relying on some G League guys this early in the season? But no, we got some stock in the young French national. I hope that's him. Otherwise, we're out. Who else could it be? Just show the man's jersey. This guy, he can't even walk in front of the camera. Dude, just walk in front of the camera. Okay, I think it's confirmed. It's the diet. The cameramen are out. Jaylen Brown is out for revenge against the unnamed source, and the cameramen apparently have some revenge for Deontay. They just don't want to give him any camera time. Holiday versus McBride. McBride's getting some serious playing time here. Will he take minutes from Bridges? Oh, not if he doesn't do that. Misses the rotation on Holiday. And we shouldn't just start calling out missed rotations in our new reformed state since we're not a basketball coach. But that was his guy to start the possession, and he was open at the end of it. So I don't know what happened in between there. Offensive foul. McBride banking in the jumper. McBride is the best player in the Knicks right now. But an offensive foul is going to call it back. I mean, Brunson's getting to the rim. McBride's hitting from all over the place. And he's defending Holiday in the post. And they're not offensive rebounding either. This Knicks team is not playing like a tough team here to start this game. It's a lot of finesse. Again, no rebounding. The defensive pressure that you would expect from a Thibodeau team. Thibodeau's voice must be gone for good. He's not yelling at all. The rookie, Diade. Not able to get that one to go. Oh, Brown with the lazy pass. Come on, buddy. We just spent time defending you. Now he's jogging back on defense, and his guy's pulling up for three. Oh, thankfully, Anunoby missed it. He could have just taken Brown off the dribble. Brown is not trying to run around right now. Okay, a little cross-screen action here for the Celtics. Into a Brown Holiday pick and roll. Brown downhill with the fadeaway. Some decent action. Not able to get a great look, but, you know, gets the defense moving around. Here we go. McBride. Dribble penetration. They have to double team him. They're throwing doubles at McBride. He kind of dribbled into that, though. He's kind of double teaming himself in a sense. Step back three. Oh, he's cooking people. McBride. Is there a I do sort of three-point thing that we can say for McBride? Chat, what should we say when Miles McBride hits a three? He's a bride. Celtics still up by 20. In what was supposed to be an exciting NBA opening night has turned into domination for the Boston Celtics. Unbelievable. They're already load management. They're like, we don't need Brunson for the rest of this game. Let McBride cook. Let's get him those minutes. And make no mistake, bringing Mitchell Robinson back is not going to help this team. I mean, we're just going to need to see a better effort here from the Knicks in the second half. The Celtics are way too hot from three-pointer right now. And the only way that you're going to stop that is by upping their defensive pressure. They're 52% for three. They're 13 for 25. The Knicks, on the other hand, I mean, 2 for 12. They've gotten up half as many threes. The math of this Celtics team, 5 turnovers for the... I mean, 15 assists? 15? And there's 6 minutes left in the second quarter? I mean, these stats are going to, you know, fall to earth a little bit. They're going to push this lead to 35, and then, you know, I guess the Knicks are just going to keep their subs in. But, you know, they're probably not going to get to 50 assists tonight. 6 offensive rebounds as well, too. They're up 10 field goals at this point, but the three-point volume is something that's going to have to change. And if you're just going the three-point teams for the three-point teams, In the East, I guess they're kind of the Pacers, and the Pacers would, just in theory with Halliburton and the fast-paced offense that they were running last year, and they're gonna get Mathurin back as well. I guess we haven't been locked in on the Pacers blogs to see what the health has been for Mathurin. So chat, if we have any Pacers fans in the chat, do they want to update us on Mathurin real quick? Shams has been doing a good job at ESPN, but we still will take any fan knowledge if it's out there. But Milwaukee, Philadelphia with Maxey and George, Tobias Harris. I mean, they're going to be a team that might take a lot of three-pointers. I don't know what Tobias Harris, how many they're going to make. But Miami, I guess Miami, Boston is always sort of a tough, tense matchup for Celtics fans. But are the Magic going to be a killer three-point team this year? Or Cleveland? I just don't see it. So plus 160 for the Celtics to win the East. I mean, jump on it now. It's going to be the highest it is all season. I guess, of course, there are... we all know what can happen that can change the course of a season for any teams. But we won't mention it because we don't, we don't want to start giving the universe any ideas. But outside of that, if the Celtics stay together, they should be in good shape. They got the boy, how do you say his name? Not Quinta? Nemesis Quinoa? I don't know how you say his name, but the center. And Jaylen Brown is mic'd up tonight. Is he doing too much? The interview and the mic'd up? Oh, Jericho Sims is in the game. That's how you know we're screwed for the Knicks. Brunson back in. Brunson and McBride on the court at the same time. Oh, Brunson immediately drawing the foul. Can they cut it to 15 before half? You know, if they get in the 12 to 15 range, we'll be locked back in. But this bench is, I don't want to say truly concerning, but they just had Brunson on the court. Brunson, McBride, Diate, and Jericho Sims. Is that Jericho Sims? He's been, what, number 45 in the past? Who's number 20? What's up with all the number changes this year? And going from the fro to the braids. Did he have the braids last year? Is it the braids? Maybe he just wasn't playing last year when he had the braids. Tatum, nobody's going to help him out. He's going to have to isolate. Oh, it doesn't even matter. He sinks the three. The Celtics are just sizzling hot right now. That was the perfect Tatum rhythm step back. He gets into that three. Tatum is one of the guys that you kind of know when he's on rhythm, like right away. You can see it when it, he shoots it flat. Oh, and Brown with the turnover in the slam dunk. Tatum's on pace to put up 40. What was Tatum's leading scorer odds going into the year? Oh, Sims with the poster dunk cuts it back to 20. Not celebrating after the poster dunk down 20 is the best thing the Knicks have done so far tonight. Just get back, keep playing. This game is far from over. If Sims had celebrated that, we would have been like, okay. That's the first down 30. Oh, Derek White in the corner. Why are they packing the lane? What is going on? Thibodeau refusing to make defensive adjustments here. Another driving kick attempt here for Jaylen Brown. He's going to drive, draw the defense, kick it out. They're falling for it every time. It's easy at this point. Derek White open for three. Splash it in. It's not even like they're doing anything tough. I mean, this is literally just driving kick. We love Missoula. Missoula's a great coach. He's inspired his players to where Ime Udoka got them, and beyond that, they won the title. He's brought the best out of all of his guys. He's put them in positions to succeed. This is not complicated offense. The Knicks should know what is happening. And I guess who runs sets these days, but, you know. The one set that I feel like they've legitimately ran is that crosser action. There's a coach with Jaylen Brown's old haircut on the sidelines, the old flat top. That's pretty sick. But they're literally huddled around talking. They are not even watching the game. They ran that one little action, and they barely ran it. It was like a mid shot. Jaylen Brown missed. There wasn't a ton of conviction on the screens. I don't even know if the Knicks switched it. So Holiday, he's unwrapping a lot of ice packs on the leg. What was the ice pack count on Holiday last year, chat? Does anybody remember? I feel like it was minimal. So that's not always ideal, but you gotta do what you can to be the Han Solo. I was gonna reference that, but I forgot what it's called. I'm not a Star Wars fan. Carbonite? What do they freeze Han Solo in, chat? Is it carbonite? Is it 24 now? Jeez. Brunson cuts it to 21. I mean, the lead is only growing. They're still going about, 2 for 3, 1 for 2 at this point. Boston's still outpacing them. Brown for 3. Yeah, if he had made that one, honestly, I would have taken back anything bad I said about the Knicks defense, because that was not a good look. And it would have just been like, okay, the Celtics are unstoppable, but there is some reality here. If they take a bad look, they will miss. Towns, again, scowling. So we know Towns is only motivated when he's down 20. It's the second time today he's cut the lead to 18 and given us a look. Tatum with Hart on him. Takes him right off the dribble. I mean, Anunoby, Bridges, don't you bring in these guys to stop Tatum? Why is Hart guarding him? Now Brunson has picked up Brown full court. The Knicks just don't care anymore. $150 to go to half. Okay, let me grab the halftime stuff now so we can be prepared. And then that way we don't have to go. We can just get straight into NFL action. We don't have to go to break it all. Because halftime is up in just 1 second. So here, give us 2 seconds. We'll be right back. Okay, people, we've made a mistake. We're back, but We accidentally, well, we didn't accidentally. We signed up for League Pass because we're good NBA fans and we're locked in. But I forgot that last year FanDuel ran the promotion that if you bet like $5, you got 3 months of League Pass or whatever. So, unfortunately, we're set for full price for the month of October. I don't know if we can make a bet and they can prorate it. But if you guys are out there, that's an option for you if you don't have the League Pass. I tried to get our guy Billy Buckets to place the thing and just get League Pass so he could watch the games, just so we could have somebody else to be like, hey, did you see what else happened that night? But he's like, no, I'm not a degenerate fan. I have the ESPN. Like, I'll literally just watch the games on that. So maybe if he changes his mind, he will make the bet. I mean, he'll make the bet anyways. It's just whether or not he remembers to click on the promotion and get the thing. So that's really what we're trying to do. It's not even about getting the League Pass. It's about you're already going to be investing this money in the NBA, so just go ahead and get something for it besides the fact that you're going to win a bet. Because make no mistake, I'd say Billy Bucket's bet rate is he might have the highest hit rate of the friend group at this point. I don't know. We'd have to double check Fataport's bet rank since he started getting into the real apps, because there was a stretch there when Fataport, he's had to deal in some of the underground betting apps for, some not like us type reasons. But I guess we should clarify. But back in his day. But now that he's on FanDuel, I don't know what his record is. So maybe next week we'll do an updated Rem and Sam Universe bet rankings and see whose percentage is the highest. Make no mistake, people, we are not even on the podium. And honestly, if we were a UFC fighter, we would have to have vacated our ranking because we're taking a bit of a break since apparently we didn't have the charger going. Do we not have the charger plugged in, IT? What's going on here? Well, we might as well have forgotten the charger because the Knicks did as well. What's it, 49-72? I don't even know what the margin is at this point. The win percentage has to be through the roof for Boston at this point. 1:17 into the second quarter, and we still have a whole half to go, people. This was a mistake. This is an absolute mistake, an absolute disaster. The NBA sucks. These games are all blowouts and just three-point shooting. Nobody cares anymore. All of these guys are going to start taking breaks and load management in the next couple of games, too. Why do we root for this league? Hopefully the Knicks make a comeback. Josh Hart can get it to 21 here. Can they cut it to 16? I mean, that would be really impressive. That would be, like a little 7-0, 8-0 burst here at the end of the half. You'll take that at almost any stage in the game, regardless of where you're at. They just showed a live line update. This game was -6 to start, so Boston kind of at home. They're like, I know it's not, NFL lines, but still. Right now, Boston -19.5. I mean, the smart move is, and maybe, game one, the Knicks aren't going to try to do too much. They've already got a couple of injuries. Maybe they sit some guys. But again, with the NBA and Boston, I mean, has Boston been known to give up a lead or two? Has that ever happened before, chat? I mean, can you guys ever think of a time that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown may have given up a 20-point lead at some point in their careers? And again, it's to cover the spread. It's not to win the game. Can the Knicks rally and keep this within 19.5 in the second half? Would be the ultimate question. The Rem and Sam accountants might say go for it. Towns. Oh, Horford. He takes Horford one-on-one, pause, sweeping hook shot through the lane. I mean, make no mistake, Towns can't, again, get anything going to the rim, but he is getting these hook shots off a little bit. But even that, like, he started to go, he could have kind of swooped and gone in, and kind of swooped and went back. And still somehow, ends up almost out of bounds at the corner 3-point line. At the end of that, Karl-Anthony Towns cannot stay away from the 3-point line. Cut it to 19. There is 34 seconds left, so they're probably going to have about 10 seconds left on the shot clock or so when this gets back. So if they hit a 3 here, they could cut it to 16. Hopefully you scooped up that 19.5 while you could. Obviously, the Celtics could score here because Tatum has Brunson switched onto him. And oh boy, he's getting to the rim. Yep, easy look. Now the only thing you can do is match at this point. But still in the range to cover, which is what's important. Josh Hart's going to get the bucket, but it doesn't even matter. And maybe we don't want to actually keep going during halftime because I forgot that, and not that, forgot is the right word, but this is the last season for Inside the NBA on TNT. So, I mean, do we just have to cherish every moment? I mean, obviously we do, but I mean, what are we doing being live right now? I think we should all just sit in silence and watch NBA on TNT. Can we crank up the volume? Will YouTube pull us down? Will we get copyrighted for Shaq and Kenny and Charles? Make no mistake, people, I knew that for this NBA season specifically, that we were not going to be sneaking in any movies after these games because this was, and not that we ever were, but this was definitely going to be a heavy, heavy Inside the NBA season. It's the last hoorah, the last go around. Savor every moment of it. Hopefully Charles Barkley is just fully unhinged. Doesn't care at all. And hopefully he doesn't just start taking more days off as well too during the regular season. I feel like last season, and rightfully so, he was upset with his body. And I don't know if that had anything to do with it. And Charles has been doing this for a long time as well too. The man has earned some time off, but I feel like there was a couple of Thursdays in there where I'm like, okay, I feel like I've seen enough of Vince Carter. Shout out. But we know the show is iconic for the quartet, that main four. And the Tuesday thing, I think at this point, obviously they're, come playoff time is when we get them for every night. But those Thursdays, if there's a Thursday in there or two where Charles is off, that's going to be a bummer. March Madness, they're always off around that time. But regardless, we will be looking forward to and not looking forward to. We'll be looking forward to the shows themselves, but not looking forward to the fact, obviously, that it will be ending. And even if and honestly, there's talks about it going to another network. I get it. I think, it's not even just the best NBA show. It is the best TV studio show. I mean, it's a top 5 TV show just in general right now. I don't even know if that's a hot take, but especially now Game of Thrones is off. We're going to put Rings of Power over Inside the NBA on TNT. Should we put up a poll on YouTube? Stay tuned, guys. Subscribe if you haven't. We might put up a poll. But, it's not just a top NBA show. It's a top show in general. High quality all the way around. And we're going to be cherishing every last second that they're on TV. So, shout out to those guys. But, Week 7 is in the books for the NFL, and we got a couple of, good games, a couple of high-level games, like we were saying, going into the week. But one of the good games was definitely not Chiefs-Niners, and it's a tough one for Purdy, man, because like we were saying in the Friday stream, that he doesn't have a great history against these other top quarterbacks. He's lost to Burrow already. He's lost to Lamar when they played Lamar in the regular season. He's now lost to Mahomes a couple of times. So, again, it's the top notch of the league. If Purdy is, if you're putting Purdy in the top 10, it's like he is beating all the guys. He is, getting victory on all the guys that you would rank underneath him and only losing to those few that you would put him in the mix for. But you would still hope that as a Super Bowl contending team, he would have a moment against one of these other top quarterbacks where he pulls out the win. And I mean, not only was this perfect for it, but did he throw, I guess he didn't throw all the picks in the red zone, but was that third one in the red zone? That was, I don't want to say the worst pick of Purdy's career, because he did also have he had the pick in the couple of picks in that Browns game when that was his first loss, I believe, as a starter. You know, the man's had his fair share, but the timing of that as well too, and just the moment of, oh yeah, you can take down the Chiefs at home. They're also 3-4 now, so the fact that you're 500 and that's on the line when you're driving down the field. And I get that they had a lot of their receivers out, and Pearsall as well too is playing in the game. And it's not even that Pearsall's just been out from injury. Like, Pearsall is a rookie who has been injured, and the season is already going. Like, the adjustment to get him into the mix is probably even like 2 or 3 steps behind. Just now, all of a sudden, we're throwing to who is on the list here. Jacob Cowing ended up being the guy. Kittle ended up with 6 for 92 on the game, but I feel like he had a couple of catches in there after the Chiefs had kind of pulled away a little bit. And I guess, only a 10-point game. The Niners were still hanging in there at the end, but I feel like, yeah, they scored that last touchdown with a minute left. So, yeah, it was 28-12. And then how many passes did Kittle get on this drive? 2. Yeah, so he got 2 of those receptions on that last drive when they were down 28-12, and they would have needed, quite a bit of work at that point. A couple of onside kicks. So, even once those guys go down, it's like, okay, could we have fed Kittle like even a little bit more? I get that you lost your 2 high-level receivers, but you do still have an all-pro on the field, an all-pro weapon in George Kittle. And is he an all-pro a little bit for the blocking? It's like, yeah, okay, this guy's one of the best after the catch that we've seen when he really gets going. But there was also some connection stuff as well, too, where, I think even for this game, you still go, yeah, Purdy in this offense gives you what you need. But it was to the point where Purdy was ascending out of Purdy in this offense, and he was becoming a good quarterback in his own right. And could we, just respect, Purdy for just being a good football player at some point and not having these stipulations of Shanahan or the Niners system around him. But a couple of those picks as well, too. And again, you don't know what's the receiver's responsibility and what's on the quarterback, but the ability to just adjust like that, I feel like we've seen with Mahomes do, but to do it in a game and do it on the fly, I mean, maybe that's just like unfair last levels of, stuff that just, maybe it's unfair to hold Purdy to, but it does feel like a thing that, and again, maybe not even like the all-time great quarterbacks. And, I guess Stafford would be an all-time great quarterback in a sense. Like, Stafford's probably a Hall of Famer, but is Stafford, I guess, maybe second best. Like, I don't want to disrespect Stafford. I've liked what Stafford's done on this Rams run the last couple of years. Stafford in the playoffs last year, I have too much respect for those performances, so I have to give the man his props. What are they doing with Kenny right now? Are they live? We have to pivot back to this because they are live on the scene. We weren't watching any of the pregame coverage. I guess we weren't savoring Inside the NBA as much as we want, but we're thinking the end of the night show specifically is what, when I think Inside the NBA, that's what I'm thinking of. And I didn't watch pregame, so I feel like sometimes they just hop on as well too, like right when the broadcast time is going to start. So if the game is on at 6:30, they're on at 6:30 and then it's going. But they're live, so they probably had a whole countdown thing tonight that we missed. And we were just unfortunately, we weren't missing out because Missy Elliott was bumping in the background, so you can't get mad at that. But Kenny running to the board down the walkway. I guess not really running, but sort of soaking in the moment as he jogs back to the place. Oh, are they live where Shabuzi was performing? So Shabuzi wasn't even a Shabuzi performance. He was just at the NBA Inside the TNT thing. Inside the NBA on TNT brought out Shibuzi for a live musical performance. I mean, that's what we're getting in the last year, people. Maybe run it back. I take it back. Oh, I think I was going to say that earlier, and I forgot what I was going to say, but I kind of hope, not hope, but like, if this is it, then that's good. Like, I don't know if we need to see another iteration of this show, because they could take it to another network and a network could give them the same freedom, and I guess it could be the same thing. You know, I guess if Ernie and the team commits to it, like in theory, but you know, it's inside the NBA on TNT. They've had, you know, it's not like we don't have a library of stuff and moments for them to go back to. It's not like you could say that this show has necessarily gone too soon. And again, we're not saying anything, so stream, don't leave us yet. But what we're saying is, you know, we don't want necessarily like a Vultures 1 and 2 run of this show if they go to another network. Like, it's perfect. The run that they've had is legendary. It's a great show. Charles Barkley loves golf. Like, maybe we should just let the man go golf. Let the man do his thing. Does he like hanging out in the Caribbean, San Antonio? I don't know where their spots are, but let the man be in peace. And just let the show exist as a perfect show. You know, we don't need to continue to force it, pause necessarily. But also, you know, if the show is there, it's absolutely a great idea. Like, it's a great idea either way. The thing is, what we're saying is we're at a point with the show where, you know, we've made peace with it. If this is absolutely the last season that we're going to get. And I know the rumors on that front, I don't know if there's been any new developments in that as of lately. Nothing that we've necessarily looked at anyways. But, you know, we're good either way. If the show returns, then absolutely we're going to be there watching it. It's the best show in existence. But if this is the run that we got, then this was legendary as well too. And, you know, it's one of the best shows that ever ran. So there was a post I was seeing about the greatest TV shows of all time, but it was aggregating up their scores from a bunch of the aggregator websites. So it's like Rotten Tomatoes, the Metacritic, the IMDb, you know, all these critic rankings into one thing. How do you spell aggregated? There we go. Let me see if I can find this post. Because where would the NBA on TNT rank amongst the greatest shows of all time? I feel like it would be pretty high up the list. I mean, come on, the fact that we're talking about it, how has it not popped up yet? You're going to give me ads, but you're not going to give me the post I want? Okay, here we go. Yeah, what is this? Rotten Tomatoes. The critics and the users, both of the scores separately. Metacritics, critics and users. The movie database. I guess a bunch of other these icons I'm not necessarily super familiar with. But it had as the number one show of all time, and kind of by a lot as well. It's the only show with an overall score of over, it's on a scale of 1 to 10 with decimals. It's the only show over 9. It's Breaking Bad with a 9.32, Game of Thrones 8.85, Chernobyl 8.6, The Sopranos 8.5. And those are the only 4 shows with, like, you know, the Pro Football Reference, like the dark green elite player ranking. And then after that, the Band of Brothers. So I guess that's the Mount Rushmore TV shows. Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, Chernobyl, and The Sopranos. And then Band of Brothers, The Wire, Better Call Saul, Stranger Things, Sherlock, Peaky Blinders. Rounds out the top 10. Peaky Blinders in the top 10. Might be a little rich, but I remember going through this. There was a run later in like the 30s that I was like, man, is this the greatest run of all time? Oh, yeah, here it is. 28 to... Or no, is it 20? Okay, so 27 to 30. These 4 shows. So you could have Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, Chernobyl, and The Sopranos, which is 1, 2, 3, and 4. I mean, that's pretty strong. Or Severance, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, The Boys, and Seinfeld. I guess that's more of a 3-show run. We were kind of forcing Severance in there. But It's Always Sunny, The Boys, and Seinfeld versus Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, and The Sopranos. I mean, the rewatch, face off of those groups would be insane. So I feel like Seinfeld definitely should be higher up. You could give some love to It's Always Sunny as well. I mean, Seinfeld under Mr. Robot. Seinfeld under The Office is pretty crazy. I mean, Seinfeld under Peaky Blinders. But Inside the NBA or Better Call Saul? I mean, that's a wash, people. Charles Barkley's going to wash. What's his name? Saul Goodman? John Goodman? Roseanne? Saul's going to wash all, or Charles Barkley's going to wash all of them. Ernie Johnson. He'll take all of them. Stranger Things? I mean, people, Stranger Things is the 8th greatest show of all time is crazy. I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and make that hot take right here. And I don't even know if I could, say this and take it a step further. Stranger Things is a great show. I don't know if it's in the top 10 TV shows of all time. Maybe there's like a cultural moment thing with it and an impact thing, but I don't know. And it's, maybe if we're doing like a TV season rankings, Stranger Things season 1 might be, if you want to say that that's a top 10 TV show season of all time, then, I mean, that's going to be hard to make the case against. But as a complete show, I mean, it couldn't even last for 3 seasons, and they had to go, do the Travis Scott step away for like 9 years to really develop this last season. And Inside the NBA, is there, every week for 82 games a year and into the playoffs, chugging along. Never missed a beat. They have on this aggregate the Twilight Zone, the OG Twilight Zone at number 11. I mean, this wouldn't be necessary. I guess, I don't know if we want to start giving out our rankings, but, we're definitely moving the Twilight Zone up. Just on a respect factor, like there's some shows that like the Twilight Zone, if you're going to tell me the Twilight Zone's better than Inside the NBA, it's going to be hard to argue against that. Like we were saying with Seinfeld, that run, the shows at the top that we mentioned with Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, The Sopranos, Band of Brothers, The Wire. Though, Band of Brothers and Chernobyl, like, are those, maybe Band of Brothers is, on rewatch for the people that like love the Civil War docs. Is Shane Gillis just constantly rewatching Band of Brothers? He might be, but I would definitely take Inside the NBA over that. So I would say it's a top 10 TV show of all time. I don't know if that's a hot take, but you put it in there. And if we're throwing studio shows and TV shows in the mix, I guess now you're opening up to like late night as well. So is Carson in there? Is the Drew Barrymore show in there? I don't know what we're throwing in there. Game shows? I don't know. Some people are going to say like Steve Harvey and Family Feud is better than Inside the NBA. And you just got to let those people exist in their world. I mean, Steve Harvey's awesome and we love it. Steve Harvey's not Charles Barkley. Even though if Charles Barkley just wants to go co-host Family Feud with Steve Harvey after this, that wouldn't necessarily be a bad move either. But is halftime back and we didn't even get to week 7, people. The Chiefs are so boring right now that Inside the NBA is just a better bet. But yeah, tough for Purdy. Mahomes sucks, and apparently the Chiefs can still win. It just doesn't matter. Is he just drinking more beers every week? I think the man is gaining weight as the season goes. I've never seen this before. The reverse. He's playing himself out of shape. I've never seen it happen. But it doesn't matter. He's good in the fourth quarter. The defense is elite. Nobody's going to stop him. The Ravens couldn't beat him in week 1, and they're, chugging along, probably the best team in the league. So until we get some proof that Lamar can do something against Mahomes, the rest of the league is just screwed. I guess with the way Detroit's looking right now, they might be another hope as well. Towns in the post, throwing the pass behind his head to Josh Hart. Drew Holiday needs helped up by 3 guys off the court. People, the ice bags, the slow moves, The missed 3-point shots. Is this the only hope that the Celtics don't win the title this year? Is, Drew Holiday and Horford have just were, pause used up at the end of the last year? Derek White with the jacked up 3-point shot. It's a foul. 23 points as we sit here, 10 minutes to go in the third quarter. Will the Knicks make a run, people? It doesn't look like. I mean, Towns might be the only hope at this point. Towns with the standing rebound. That's the first rebound I've seen him get. Again, we're doing a stream. Pause. Brunson in the post. Working on White. I don't know if you can throw the ball to Josh Hart at this point. He's not doing much offensively. Neither is Bridges. Bridges just turned it over. Bridges with the terrible pass, the Kyler Murray right into the offensive line. Or should we call it the Bryce Young? Anytime there's a player that throws a batted pass in the NBA, it's the Bryce Young. And the Celtics are just raining threes. What is the highest 3-point percentage that anybody's hit for a season? For a team? Because I think the Celtics might be... I mean, they're definitely on pace to break it right now through one game. But with the confidence that they have... And it's like working out. It's like tolerance, It's... Yes, you know how hard it is to get there in the end, but I mean, the level that you can play at in the regular season, I mean, that that you can elevate to because you've been at these high levels. I mean, it can probably seem easy at some point. And maybe the fact that it does look easy is a sign that this team is, maybe even taking a step up. The highest the highest player percentage is Korver. Our guy Korver with a 53.6. But for teams, it looks like, according to Basketball Reference, the highest 3-point percentages for a season are the go backwards. A little spoiler alert. The highest team is from the 90s. But top three here are the 09-010 Phoenix Suns shot 41% as a team from the field. 41.2%. The 15-16 Warriors, so that first Warriors team that we were talking about earlier, not any of the Durant teams, but that first Warriors team with Iguodala shot 41.5% from the three-point line. And then the 96-97 Charlotte Hornets shot 42.76% from the field. So you know where Steph gets it from. Shout out to his dad. And was this a Glenn Rice team as well, too? Glenn Rice and Del Curry apparently couldn't miss in the 96-97 season. 54 wins. That has to be their best season ever. Unfortunately, they got swept by the Knicks in the first round of the playoffs that year. But Dave Cowens? I didn't even know Dave Cowens had a coaching run. This is why you tune into the Rem and Sam feed, people, because you learn things about NBA history. I had no idea Dave Cowens coached Del Curry on the Hornet. I mean, basketball. These paths crossed. Sometimes it seems incestual. What this guy coached to this guy and played with that guy and all this stuff. But everybody's interconnected. Muggsy Bogues, Ricky Pierce, Vlade Divac. This team was stacked. Anthony Mason was the league leader in minutes that year with 43 minutes played a game. 43. They had two guys on this team playing 40 minutes a game in Glenn Rice and Anthony Mason. Anthony Mason was third-team All-NBA and ninth in MVP voting. There's a little trivia for you, people. If people ever ask you, Did Anthony Mason receive MVP votes? Absolutely. Whoa, Anthony Mason, 15th in MVP voting in 2000, 2001? What was going on in the league? How good was Anthony Mason? Didn't make All-NBA that year, but made the All-Star team. Made third team All-NBA that season. Got one MVP vote. Iverson with 93 first place votes. Duncan with 18. Shaq with 7. Weber with 5. Garnett with 1. And then somebody just decided to put Mason on their ballot. Was there some Miami bias that season? Why was Mason getting the MVP votes for the Charlotte Hornet, though? Was there anybody else? Glenn Rice was 5th that year, so Glenn Rice didn't get any first-place votes, but 134 points? Is it just 1 point per vote on the ballot if you get the 5 votes? So was he on 134 ballots? I guess it wouldn't work that way. There's probably a scoring system then with the way it's ranked, but more MVP votes that year than Shaq, than Scottie Pippen, than Allen Iverson, a 21-year-old Allen Iverson. Just under Patrick Ewing, separated only by 50 votes. Anthony Mason, same amount of MVP votes as Shaq in 1996-97. Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed? Oh, I thought we would look back at the game and see something hopeful. We don't. The Knicks are still down 18. Though Hart at the free throw line could get it to that 16 number that we've been really harping about, because it's 17 right now. Or no, excuse me. I'm looking at this number backward. It was 28, people. It's now 27. The lead only continues to grow. I wanted to see a closer game. I projected a closer game in my mind, but we're back in reality. It's only a 26-point game. But the Lions, like we said, look good. But if anything, I think that game just maybe showed that, in the Niners, I think the defense looked good against the Chiefs. I get, they gave up some stuff at the end. I still think the Niners, outside of some Purdy picks, looked like a good overall team. But I think that might have been the two best teams in the NFC playing in that game. And, the Lions winning it that decisively, that might just be the phase that they're in right now for this regular season. And the playoffs are going to be a different animal. Teams are going to change. Teams are going to get better. The Packers are really rounding it. That defense was excellent against Stroud this week. So if Love and the offense continues to get better, they're going to be really terrifying. But, it's hard to say that they didn't miss a step without Hutchinson. But they were, really throwing Darnold off. And I know Darnold's not it's not like they were throwing Mahomes off, but they were pressuring Darnold. And the Vikings offensive line is good. And the secondary was flying around making plays. And, Brian Branch was, and I think is now, the #1 overall PFF safety on the season, which he took over Xavier McKinney. And that seems a little extreme. Xavier McKinney is having a great season. I feel like he's had a better overall season so far. So I don't know what the game-to-game plays have been. And, the significance of the individual plays that Brian Branch has made to get to that total. But regardless, he's been in the mix for best safety in the league now. And he had the interception, which, Darnold, like we said, he's good to throw a pick in these games now after that hot start to the season. But that was a great play by Branch, undercutting the route and then, elevating the way he did to get that pick was crazy impressive. But then he, it's just right place, right time as well, too. The fumble recovery, scooping that, scoring into the end zone. You're like, man, Brian Branch is going to win them this game. And, again, those impactful plays was still a really big part of it. But just because they don't have Hutch, who, again, we made the cases, maybe he's the best player in the league, right? Or, playing like the best player in the league when he went down, but they're still getting elite play from the other places in their defense. The offense is really clicking, and Montgomery, goes down as well with injury in this game, which I was like, okay, the Lions, this is just like ultimate good luck for the Chiefs. Everybody in the AFC can't beat this team. The Niners are falling apart over in the NFC, and then the one team that looks good, the Lions, now all of a sudden might lose arguably their two best players with Hutch going down, and then Montgomery also had the 90 overall grade on PFF. He's been phenomenal this season, and when he goes down, you get the Gibbs elevated into that starting role, but again, I think Montgomery has been the better back this year, so I think Gibbs would have been, clearly elevated above him if it was that obvious, but he hadn't necessarily been, I'm trying to remember what his yardage total was when he had gotten subbed in for, to be the starter once Montgomery went down. I guess subbed in's not the right term, but you get what I'm saying. Once he's responsible for that full-time role. And the Celtics are about to push it to 30. They're about to get to 100 points in Boston with 5 minutes left. 5.5 minutes left in the third quarter. It's 99-70. Again, I guess, if we're going on those historical averages, the Celtics are at 60% right now. They're 24 for 30. I mean, they've got to be chasing a record. Do we have to look up the game record now? What is the record for most three-pointers in a game? 29. The Bucks over the Heat, December 29th, 2020, they hit 29 threes. Who knew? So, what is it, October 22nd? So they've already passed that. They're at 24 threes. And they're, again, shot 3 times as many threes as the Knicks. The Knicks have only shot 3 threes this quarter. They were at, 12 in the first half, and they're at 15 right now. So, chat, I don't remember what we said before that, when we were at the halftime break, but I think it was 12. They're at 33%. I mean, are the Celtics going to hit 6 threes between now and the end of the game? I mean, that is quite a few. But they're definitely on pace for it. I don't know what their percentage was in that game as well. Let's dig up the old box score for 2020. Bucks versus Heat. So that would have been the season they won the title, because December 2020 would have been the 2020-2021 season. So a record 3-point percentage in the same season as a team wins the title. Could we be seeing it again? Could it be a repeat? So December 29th. Middleton, the leading scorer with 25, 144 points. So the bench was in there chucking up threes. Oh, yeah, you got 2 for 3 from Jordan Nwora. Sam Morrell putting in a 3. DJ Wilson. Bryn Forbes. The Nassus hit a 3 in this game. So if our boy Nemesis Quinoa comes in and hits a 3, then they might just be right there for the record. That game, the Bucks shot 29 for 51. They were 57% from the field. The Celtics are above that. Do we have to go highest 3-point percentage? In the makes minimum. So that might be the record percentage-wise as well, too. Uh-oh, we're going to try StatMuse, people. Yeah, this says the Hawks shot 100% from 3 in 2007. Yeah, they were 1 for 1. This doesn't count. Can we go min 10 attempts? This is a live trying to get StatMuse to work. Shout out to Rosillo. Sam's not here. We'll do it ourselves. The weekly Rosillo shout out. So the Pacers went 7 for 7 in a game in 1995. Do we count that one? Yeah, that's the best stat Muse is going to give us is the Hawks went 7 for 7 in 1995. So I guess that's technically the best three-point percentage game of all time. But the Celtics are on verge of shattering a couple of records. We don't even have the background up, people. We're a mess. We're too far behind tonight. Let's get the scene switched around. Let's get this stream cooking right. I know the Knicks aren't doing things right tonight, but we can do it ourselves. Okay, we're back. We cleaned up the web page. So let's just double check the NFL scorecard this week. See what else we've got. We're not going to look at Colts Dolphins. I know it was a win. Let's not look at the stats. We're just going to say Anthony Richardson won the game, and that's good enough. We didn't see Flacco either. The only time we saw Flacco this week was on the Manning cast. Spencer Rattler getting destroyed. Trevor Lawrence getting the win like we were saying they needed to. Being in London for the extra week is now... I mean, maybe playing the Patriots is also an advantage, but being in London the extra week when the other team has to travel over is a hard pause benefit to pass up on. But Tank Bigsby now is obviously like a real piece for them. And there is a guy every year that I cut on my fantasy team way too early. And I wish I could, maybe if I really thought about it and tried to like go back and look, I could come up with a list. But it's a pretty impressive list of guys that I cut at like week 1 or 2 during the season. And then they're on the waiver wire. Somebody picks them up and they're like inevitably. I bet if I go through just the top 10 fantasy at the position over like the last decade, I'll find the guys. Because again, it's always a guy that elevates up there. Tank Bigsby with a 2 touchdown performance. And I forget the yardage total, but I forget we're on the web too. We can just look it up. I'm pretty sure he was well over 100 yards. Maybe we shouldn't look it up. We're gonna expose our web strength capabilities. 118 yards on 26 attempts. Of course, no ETN. Was that by design? But oh geez. But Tank Bigsby is my guy this year that I cut on the waiver wire too early. And now he's just gonna go off and be a top 10 running back. The ultimate guy that I cut too early into the season, and I hate to say this, people, I'm going to lose all credibility after I did this move, but I was a younger man a couple of years ago. We're learning every year. 25 three-pointers made for the Celtics tonight is an NBA opening night record. They're 4 away. And Derek White's going to put up a 3 here. That's 26. They're 3 away from tying the record in the third quarter. There's a minute 45 in the third quarter. They could easily be at 27 here. They could hit another one and be at 27 by the end of the third. Bridges finally gets a three-pointer to go. Given a like, I can't believe we're down 30, huh? That's crazy. Derek White again, and Derek White is feeling it. Oh, yep, he's feeling a little too much. That shot went long as well. But the ultimate guy that I cut from my fantasy team in the first 2 weeks too early was Justin Jefferson in his rookie season. And it's always a move made out of desperation. It's never usually just a whimsical cut. But I forget exactly what the circumstances are. I hope they were good. Justin Jefferson's first 2 weeks were not necessarily the brightest of his career. Let's get a fact check on those stats here real quick. Just to kind of cover myself a little bit. Because, again, that's a pretty aggressive move to say that I cut the best receiver of our generation and let him hit the waiver wire at any point. And it's not just, and again, even that rookie season was not even just a good rookie season, a historic rookie season by the end. But those first 2 games, oh yeah, and then I remember this so well because that third week was insane. The first 2 games, he went 2 catches for 26 yards and then 3 catches for 44 yards. So this was a couple years ago. I was probably heavily invested in running backs, had some injuries, and just needed a receiver. Did they just get another 3? I think that was a 2. Yeah, they're still at 26. So 3 more makes, and the Celtics tie the 3-point record. 4 more, and they break it. Will they be the first team ever in NBA history to make 33s in an NBA game? That's the only thing we have to look forward to in this fourth quarter, people. Will the Celtics break the 3-point record? But Jefferson in his rookie season, 2 for 26, and in the first week, and then in the second week, 3 receptions for 44 yards, no tutties in either one. They lost both games, and then in week 3 against the Tennessee Titans, I cut him going into week 3. Somebody, of course, scoops him up immediately because just like in the NFL draft, the Vikings laughed when the Eagles took Rieger, and I'm sure, I forget who it was. Maybe it was Gibby, our guy Gibby, shout out. I forget who picked up Justin Jefferson that season, but they were laughing at us. And in week 3, he had 7 receptions for 175 yards. And that iconic first touchdown of his career where he gritties in, iconic picture, the start of what is, a historic start to a receiver career. And again, looks like maybe the best receiver of our generation. But at that point, proceeded to rip off the greatest rookie season we'd seen a receiver have. Except for those first 2 weeks. He was on pace to put up a measly 600 yards on 42 catches. And apparently that's what I saw. But Tank Bigsby will now go into that list. Because let's just look up what he's done. He was a guy that I had flagged out of the draft as an interesting watch list guy, and then just kind of scooped him up before I thought anybody could get to him. Cartavius Bigsby? Our guy? Cartavius is maybe a more crazy name than Tank. That might be a more gnarly name than Tank. Hopefully it doesn't get misconstrued the wrong way, but it was a compliment. Since So, yeah, he was 12 for 73 that first week, and then 0 for 9 and 2 for 9 in week 2 and 3. So make no mistake, people, the guy did absolutely nothing in those 2 weeks. And then 7 for 90, 13 for 101, 7 for 24, and 26 for 118. And the reason I cut him is because I did a 1-for-1 with Braylon Allen. And I thought having Breece Hall, because I picked Breece Hall in the first round, it made more sense for my team to have Braylon Allen in the Breece Hall insurance than it did for having Tank Bigsby. And Breece Hall went down to 9 attempts, 10 attempts in week 4 against Denver, 9 attempts in week 5 versus Minnesota. So he had some receiving receptions in there to get the points up a little bit. But I thought if there's an injury or just, again, if Braylon Allen for some reason just steps up and takes in the starting role, then at least, I was like, okay, I've kind of cheated. I still have my first round pick. And maybe he's not Breece Hall. Maybe he's Braylon Allen. But either way, I still got him. So I thought it would be the smart move in a 1-for-1 to make that. But Bigsby might be the best running back of the 3. And maybe I should have just picked up Braylon. I should have cut Breece Hall for Tank Bigsby and just picked up Braylon Allen and done it that way. Now, Breece Hall is back, and he's cooking. Todd Dowling has unleashed Breece Hall, finally, for this Jets team, even though it's not resulting in wins. Deshaun Watson, of course. Our guy goes down, but, yeah, Lions versus Vikes was the only other big one. And Mariota stepping in for Jaden Daniels and just putting up 40 on the Panthers. Is that the best thing to happen to Caleb Williams' Rookie of the Year campaign so far? And the fact that it happened on a bye week, so he couldn't really put up a bad performance to counteract it. Where now all of a sudden Jaden Daniels has won up because he was the one that sat out and Caleb Williams was the one that brought his own stock down. But he's on the bye, so stock up. And now all of a sudden Minnesota's just Washington's just like a great team in a great system. Even Mariota can go into Washington and look at, and Mariota was not terrible. And again, the Panthers, my goodness, if you let Mariota put up a decent stat game, that is something. Mariota walked out of the set of quarterback because things were going so poorly, and he just put up 40 points on this Panthers team. Are the Panthers going to walk out of the league? Who knows? Oh, and they just showed a promo for this upcoming Thursday, which, make no mistake, we will be live for, people, this Thursday during the games. The Spurs will get their season going. Chris Paul and Wembanyama and Kenny Lofton Jr.? Will they sign Kenny Lofton and pair him up with Wembanyama? Sam was sending me some stuff about that. That's what his goal for the 2024-25 Spurs is to unite Kenny Lofton and Wembanyama on the same team. But I'm sure somebody has... The Knicks, what are we doing? New York, just sign Kenny Lofton. You need the depth at this point. Kenny Lofton and Miles McBride would not be afraid. Ray Allen is at the game? Jesus Shuttleworth? Are we watching Who Got Game after Inside the NBA? And don't stop taking threes, Boston. Hopefully somebody tells them. I want to see... Let's not put this meaningless game out there for nothing. I want to at least sit through a record-breaking performance. I'm a selfish fan. I love basketball, but I also value my time watching it. And we don't just want to sit here and watch the Celtics destroy the Knicks. Let's see some history. But also on the docket for this week, some big news. Our boy Kendrick Lamar continues his incredible run. And if you've seen some of the moves that he's been making as well, too, I would, obviously describe this as an incredible music run that he's on. But it's clear that he's entering, just from watching the moves that he's making and watching the stuff that he's putting out there and producing, he's entering this, like insane, just creative state in general, like outside of music. And he talks about that in this interview, and he's the cover story for is Harper's Bazaar actually the title of the magazine? I think so. That's where magazines are at this point, people. The only one we know is shout out the SI swimsuit. Other than that, we're pretty much out of the loop, unless of course Kendrick Lamar is doing the cover story. But he was being interviewed by SZA for this one, so there was a third author as well that was involved. What was the name here? Let's get a shout out. Shout out to Caitlin. What is his last name? Caitlin Greenidge? So shout out Caitlin Greenidge for, I guess, moderating this thing. I don't think SZA was the one that, turned in the final edit to the editor. Oh, man, and one game in, we get the cut to the Knicks bench with Karl Towns and Brunson looking dejected. Bridges nowhere to be seen. DiVincenzo, fortunate that he got out of New York in the right time. Was there a prop, FanDuel, on who would win more games between the Knicks and the Wolves? The Wolves win more regular season games than the Knicks? What would the prop on that have been? What's the prop on DiVincenzo scoring more points per game than Randall? Or Towns? What's Towns at right now? We've got Towns logging, and Towns has had some moments. He's 5 for 9, man. Towns, buddy. I mean, some good. The looks he took, the 9 looks were tough, but you're going to have to take some shots. I get the rest of this Knicks team. I don't know if he's at 6. Brunson himself at 14, 25 and 24 minutes for Towns and Brunson. Didn't have a lot of time, but still. You could have been to 12. Bridges, 7 for 13. Yeah, 2 for 7 for 3. Bridges with a minus 33. Bridges almost more negative than minutes played tonight. 35 minutes played, a minus 33. Just a complete leak. Pause. For that Knicks team, Mikal Bridges. But just everything creatively that Kendrick Lamar is doing right now seems to be at a different level. And even some of the, he's got the PG Lang thing going, obviously. And he is able to, just like with the pop out, not just doing a concert, but the whole way the concert was put together and the different stages that it was, putting people on. And, eventually, uniting the West Coast at the end too. Great moment. But the whole eventizing, start to finish, streaming it on Prime. I would even go so far as to say, like, some of the commercials that PG Lang has been playing at some of these events are like, you're like, man, there's like storytelling worked into these commercials here. And, again, even going back to the music, his last album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, I don't even think it's his best album, again, in terms of the music. And in terms of outside the music as well, like cinematically, Good Kid, Mad City is, a far superior album in terms of the non-musical elements to it, at least in my opinion. And even, if you just wanted to say it as like a different work of, I don't want to, we don't want to always just say art, but what we're talking about. But and of course it is, but we also don't want to sound too pretentious. You get what we're saying. But, like, you could even say, like, is To Pimp a Butterfly is that supposed to be like a poem or something? I forget exactly what that one's supposed to be. Because Good Kid, Mad City is a movie. But I forget what To Pimp a Butterfly is. But, I mean, the vulnerability that he is tapping into with Mr. Morale, of course, is deeper than any of the other materials. And not just, again, him doing the Super Bowl halftime, but I guarantee you the show is going to be incredible. All of Lamar's shows have been incredible. Even like the Mr. Morale tour video that he did that's also on Prime. That's an incredible rewatch as well. He doesn't, I don't think, get the credit for, and I guess he hasn't really had a chance to do the Kanye thing. And not that he would go to the Kanye, some of the extreme creative stuff that Kanye has gone to with the stadium shows. But, the fact that he's actually getting a chance to do this tour now, post Super Bowl that he's talking about, will really, I think, get to put that on display. And that's what he was really talking about in this interview, was taking, again, not just his music, but just his entire creative process and the stuff that he's creating to the next level. So it'll be curious to see like what kind of stuff that he makes, because obviously PG Lang, you would assume that they're going to continue to get into the label business and stuff like that. But is there going to be like, what kind of other side things, I guess, is he going to do to supplement these projects as well? Like, are we actually going to get like Kendrick Lamar movies at some point to go with these albums? And not that he would ever do a soundtrack album, but, in a way, would he do the full-length feature with the album score? And that is also the other interesting part to the rap beef between him and Drake as well too, and not just like what is his motivation to do it, because there is apparently some potential behind the scenes like business music stuff with them jumping on songs and things not maybe necessarily being handled in the best way in terms of communicating and putting all that stuff together. Like some of the rumors out there say that there might be reasons for that this could happen, but there is also, some of the deeper stuff too, where it's like, obviously, with the accusations that he was throwing at Drake, there's that, but there was some of the creative stuff as well too, that it seemed like he was attacking and trying to get Drake to do, which is, again, I'm trying to think like really what is the one thing that he was trying to focus Drake on? Like if there was one, or set him straight on something like after the beef, like what would it be? And again, with some of those accusations that are made, we obviously know what they would be and we don't want to start rehashing that stuff, but you get what we're saying. Like obviously that stuff seems to be fair to say on the extreme side of it, but with the actual creative process of it, I've always been curious. I guess I'm always curious. Like I get the video clips that are out there with Drake as well too, but especially with the stuff that's going on with other parts of the industry with, Diddy and stuff like that. I mean, again, this was all hashed out when this stuff was happening, but I mean, those are not just, again, this stuff was rehashed, but those are not just serious things to throw around. And we're not necessarily doing that from a lyrical standpoint. Like, is it too far? But again, like, I don't think Kendrick is the type of guy to just say things and just say things to get reactions and be careless. But it did, with him focusing in on his importance for expanding his creative process, it made me think that maybe that was, like, if that's the most important thing in the Drake thing, like, I still, like, those are crazy accusations, so I still definitely think about all that stuff all the time. But there was a couple of quotes in here that we should pull out. And he talked about the Not Like Us thing. And there was one funny moment in here too where, I'll pull it up. We'll just quote him. We don't want to misspeak anything. But again, SZA was conducting the interview. And with the way it was laid out here in the writing, I mean, it seemed like she did a fantastic job. Super interesting conversation. But they were asking, she got to the Not Like Us stuff. And the article said that this was an hour and a half. So this is obviously not the transcript, I would assume, of an hour and a half conversation. It's definitely chopped up. So We don't really know how much of this they got to. But she asks him initially about what does not like us mean, just in general. And then he answers the question. And then she says, after he answers the question, which we'll get to in a second. But her follow-up is, now, for that answer, can I say something else in this realm, or do you want me to get away from that? Can I ask you something else? And Kendrick goes, is it mean? Again, like, Kendrick, why are you worried about being mean? You just had the whole club saying A minor to this guy. And now you're in an interview talking about not like us, and you're like, are you going to ask some mean questions about what's going on? But she asks him, yeah, can I ask you a hyper masculine question? Can you, or you can tell me to shut them up. But what does not like us mean to you? And then Kendrick says, not like us is the energy of who I am, the type of man I represent. Now, if you identify with the man I represent, then SZA cuts him off. Break that down for me. And Kendrick goes, this man has morals. He has values. He believes in something. He stands on something. He is not pandering. End quote. But remember, she is asking him about not like us. And we all know this, but I mean, not like us is direct, is a diss shot at Drake. So when you're asking about what is not like us, it's almost what you're asking him about. What is Drake? Like, what is that feeling that you're fighting against? Like, I guess, is she asking him, like, what the opposite of that is? And, how he associates with that if he's the opposite. But, we're in that realm of what is, this answer is going to be directed at Drake in some ways. So, again, to go back to the start of the quote, this man has morals, he has values, he believes in something, he stands on something, he's not pandering. He's a man who can recognize his mistakes and not be afraid to share the mistakes, and can dig deep down into fear-based ideologies or experiences to be able to express them without feeling like he's less of a man. If I'm thinking of not like us, it's, let me go back. If I'm thinking of not like us, I'm thinking of me and whoever identifies with that. And then SZA says, now can I say something else in that realm, or do you want me to get away from that? Can I say something else? And Kendrick goes, is it mean? But again, this goes back to some of the creative stuff where when she asked him about not like us, like, again, if these allegations are serious, like, that would be, probably the first thing you would address. So it seems like that the part where he says, and, obviously recognizes his mistakes. We don't know what he's talking about here, but recognizes his mistakes, not afraid to share his mistakes, and can dig deep down into fear-based ideologies and experiences to be able to express them without feeling like he's less of a man. Which, if anything, if we're talking about, expressing things without feeling like a man, like, make no mistake, Drake said it himself. He was making songs that, guys were going to say that they were buying for their sisters, but maybe they weren't on fear-based ideologies. But, he is still talking about sharing and expressing. So it's not like he wants to lock the man up. Apparently he still wants the man to share and express. But again, I've always wondered, like, if you want the man to just be a little more creative, is A minor, like, is that, like, actually a little bit too far? But it's a banger. So at the end of the day, it's the greatest diss track of all time. It is what it is. But he has morals, he has values, he believes in something, he stands on something, and he's not pandering. The man is just continuing the whole thing. And he says, further on in that answer, I don't believe I'm an angry person, but I do believe in love and war. I believe they both need to exist, and my awareness of that allows me to react to things, but not identify with them as who I am. Just allowing them to exist and allowing them to flow through me. That's what I believe. And SZA heard the I believe in love and war, and she's like, I'm good. I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. before I say something crazy. And SZA is just great in this interview. I love how the writer for this, and obviously, you know, you're still going to quote them word for word as much as possible, but still like really keeping in like a lot of the modern like slang and stuff that SZA is saying. There's one part where Kendrick gives like this really in-depth answer, and SZA just comes back with like a hilarious modern one-liner. In some ways, it's like if you're reading this, like SZA at the end of this maybe gives the most in-depth answer of the two of them, and you can see the artistic, you know, you can just see where all that is really being stemmed from. But with some of it's like the texting lingo, you're like, is this like a, you know, is this a teenager with the way they're responding? But Kendrick, she asks him, she's asking about his spiritual practices. I want to talk about your spiritual practice. How many spiritual practices contribute to your day-to-day? Kendrick, all day, every day. SZA, all day is ceremony. Kendrick, ain't no BS, ain't no cliche. I literally talk to God. Like, it's to the point where I'm starting to think I'm going crazy, but then he has to remind me, no, this is really me. My early morning practices is that I have to run. When I start running, that is where I started to understand there was this threshold of pain in the spirituality for me. I remember my shins was aching, and I was like, I got 1 mile to go. Then I get whispers and downloads and start talking, and then I want to know that I want to know about. And the next thing, I'm 3 miles in, 4 miles in, and I wake up and I do this every day. And SZA says, loss of self, you have to break yourself. And Kendrick says, I have to. Kendrick just goes in on this big in-depth answer about prayer and his morning routines and runs. And SZA goes, I'm grateful for the God tea. Sidebar, what do you feel like are your top 3 contributing factors to self-transformation? All-time quote from SZA, I'm grateful for the God tea. And then she has another one here where she says, should we have highlighted this up? Gotten this ready to go? Reggie Miller just said something exciting. Are the Knicks making a comeback? They're not. It's 109-32 with 2 minutes left. But Kendrick just goes back into like another in-depth answer about like his childhood and, you know, being in touch with his personal feminine, you know, energies and all this different stuff. And SZA just goes, you know, it's, she just goes like, it's giving therapy vibes or something like that after all this in-depth answer from Kendrick. Great stuff from SZA on the quotes, but forcing Drake to dig a little deeper, to actually, you know, the boy becomes the man. He mentioned that in one of the tracks. Was that on Euphoria? 616? I forget. 616 got back heavy in the rotation for a second there because we were already on Instagram listening to Watch the Party Die. So it's like, the Kendrick Instagram is almost as in rotation as much as some of these artists' Spotify pages. And the greatness continues from our guy. How do we get our hands on this magazine? Do we have to buy like a used version, or if we subscribe now, are we able to get it? Will it be in our thing? Sorry, people. I don't know why the web page went away. Or the camera. Here we go. We're back. It's okay. At least we had the article up. So it worked out anyways. But with our guy Diate getting up some shots with 55 seconds left, there is substitution time for the Knicks. in the Celtics. Oh, yeah, and I forgot to say earlier as well about why the Knicks may have traded for Karl Anthony Towns. Or flip that, it's actually the other way around. Why the Timberwolves may have traded Karl Anthony Towns. Because I think that was, and we're watching tonight. Maybe we know the reason. But I think that was about as big of a question in this situation because the Knicks, they needed a center. We kind of understand the position that roster was in and what that team was going for. That kind of trade potentially made sense. And especially with what you ended up giving away too with the contract. And, again, DiVincenzo, a really nice player, but I don't think anybody would say that they overpaid in a sense to get a former number 1 overall pick in Karl Anthony Towns. He's been an all-star. We know what the guy can do, but I'm trying to get this pulled up here because we've got some pretty interesting insight. And honestly, it's from our guy Anthony Edwards himself, because if this is true, this makes so much sense into why they might do something like this. So Anthony Edwards was apparently quoted as saying, if I win a ring in the next 3 to 4 years, I'm going to go play football. And Jefferson, I think in the next slide over, says something about responding to y'all going to get hit and be like, nah, this ain't for me, which is obviously, oh, can Anthony Edwards go play football, whatever. But, I mean, if you're Minnesota, I mean, this is panic time. Win a ring in 3 to 4 years. I mean, that's one contract away. You're going to tell me Anthony Richardson, Anthony Edwards is going to walk away after, an 8-year career? Maybe Anthony Richardson is the one of the two guys that is more likely to do that. But that would be a big bummer for Minnesota fans, especially if it would be dependent on this amazing thing like winning a title. You'd have the first ever title in franchise history. I don't know, the first ever title in city history? Has Minnesota never won a city title? I don't know if the hockey team has ever won. The Vikings have never won a title. Timberwolves have never won a title. I don't know if the Brewer, or I guess who's the baseball team in Minnesota? The Twins? Have the Twins ever won the title? Let's do a quick look here. That would actually be crazy. Has Atlanta, because the Braves have won a World Series, right? Like all these other cities would have at least won. Even if a team is in a drought right now, they would have won a title at some point in their career. I mean, Cleveland just won a title, so that would have been the last city drought, right? And we're talking about cities with the teams. Like, shout out to, like, Sacramento. But I don't think they're quite would make the cut with just having the basketball team. But a major city with, we'd say, all 4 sports teams win, or what is the last city that needs to win a championship? So the Minnesota Wild have only been around since 2000, so they're a bit of a newer team. I guess from a city standpoint, from a whole perspective standpoint, we can give them a little bit of a break. But hockey, they also played an 82-game season. Wow, we didn't know that. Again, the Rem and Sam stream, you're learning things. I guess the records could probably be comparable as well, too. Was there a 73-9 hockey team? But they have never even made the finals. They've been in the conference finals once, and they've only won 50 games in a season one time. So for the baseball team, and I guess Minnesota Vikings didn't win any championships or any Super Bowls, but did they win any championships? The Twins Been around since 1901. So the Twins have 3 World Series. Okay, so Minnesota is not without any banners. They last won in, okay, they won in 1924, but that was as the Washington Nationals? Okay, so they apparently were moving around a little bit. But in the 80s and 90s, they won in 87 and 91 as the Minnesota Twins. 7-game series, a couple of nail-biters. Great stuff from the city of Minnesota. But, I mean, if they have this incredible first title since 1991, Anthony Edwards brings a championship home, and then all of a sudden he's leaving and going somewhere else just because they've won a title and he wants to go play football, that would be disastrous. So, of course you have to trade Karl Anthony Towns and get rid of any hope that you have a winning title. But, you know, Julius Randle, Naz Reid, Dante DiVincenzo, maybe they're actually trying to speed up the process and get Anthony Edwards to go play football. Maybe Connolly is a Vikings fan and he really doesn't. Why is Jefferson talking? Because maybe it's just friendly jabs, but Jefferson, you don't want Anthony Edwards? I guess the Vikings are a little bit stacked. Where would Anthony Edwards play on the Vikings? I guess when Aaron Jones inevitably pulls a hammy, you have Edwards in there as a backup running back. But a 6'5 running back? 6'6 running back? He's got to be receiver, right? He's got to be a weapon. Maybe he's like a Cordero Patterson. Big running back. Receiver, kick returner, running back combo. Take it as a compliment. Cordero Patterson was a first-team All-Pro at one point in his career. So that kind of comp is not necessarily a bad thing. But shout out to the Boston Celtics for kicking off the season by absolutely kicking the Knicks in the butt. Absolutely taking them down. Did they set the NBA record? I don't think they did. I think the three-point percentage cooled down a little bit in the fourth quarter. Oh, yeah, they went on a big missing tear. They finished with 48%. They did tie the NBA record, 29 three-pointers made, so we'll half count it. That's a pretty, historic stuff to see. It would have been better to see that if the other team had also had a historic performance and was able to keep up a little bit, but not so. Again, we mentioned Towns 5 for 9, Brunson with 22 at 9 for 14. Tatum was on fire tonight. 11 for 8 from the three-point range, 37 points. Jaylen Brown, after calling him the best player on the Celtics, finished with 23. 7 of 18 from the field, 5 for 9 from three-pointer. Brown, Tatum, and Holiday were all plus 20 for the game. Horford was plus 7. So if there's anything to take away, I guess that would be it. You know, big picture, the Sixers, in theory would have a center that could take that on. Milwaukee, with their size with Giannis, would be a problem as well. Two same teams in the mix. But maybe the Horford, little bit of weakness there. But outside of that, solid performance. I guess, once again, the whole team was cooking and Pritchard was not. 1 for 9 for the three. So, really, outside, Tatum was playing well by the end of the finals, too, there. I think that elimination game, was that his best game of the series? I remember he had a really impressive game there. But I don't remember if he had another game where he was better than that. I know he ended up, again, turning it around with a couple of good performances. So picking up right where they left off in dominant fashion. And after one game, I think it's safe to say that they are the favorites to win the title. But Lakers Timberwolves is up next. So who knows if this game will change anything. But shout out to Kendrick. Shout out to SZA. Shout out to Anthony Richardson for being back and healthy. Next week, we're going to get that completion percentage up a little bit. I think, is it Minnesota next week? It might be going down. Oh, no, Minnesota versus the Rams. It's the Texans. That's right, the Texans. And then Minnesota, we just got flexed. That's what I saw. That's why that was on that. We got Anthony Richardson getting flexed into Sunday night. Apparently, 48% is all they needed to see. and he's primetime material. But that will be a matchup on your TVs. They got the Colts on Sunday night versus the Jets and the Vikings. So my apologies, America. Hopefully Jonathan Taylor goes off and gives you some good performances. And honestly, we're not doubting Anthony Richardson either. We're still in on the hype train. Well, I should say we're not out on Anthony. Let me rephrase. Doubt is not the right word. We are not out on Anthony Richardson. We still have stock. We have not sold any stock either. We still have it all. I'm still in the phase where even if I know what is maybe right to start thinking at this point, I'm not thinking it, and I'm still buying up all the other stock that's available just in case I'm irrationally right. And now I have all this Anthony Richardson stock, and it's just amazing. But I guess I'm going to go hang out with my Anthony Richardson stock. Hopefully it grows. Pause. That's a crazy way to end the live. My apologies, people. The more I think about it, the crazier it gets. So we're just going to move on and pretend it didn't happen. But we will be back, like I said, definitely Thursday with that Colts, or not Colts, Spurs-Mavericks game. And then what is the second game after that? You know, we're just blinders on, waiting for the start of the Wembanyama season. But after that, we got a couple of games that night, but Thunder Nuggets. So I guess that would be the finals, potential conference finals preview on the other side. Maybe not tonight. We got Knicks, Celtics. So now we have to start looking, who are our guesses, people, for who takes that spot, because the Knicks are going to be good. Make no mistake, they're going to be a good regular season team, but clearly they're not built to hang with the Celtics. So I feel like after watching this, for some reason my gut is telling me the Magic might be a sneaky team to watch in the East this year. I don't know why, but after watching this performance, it seems I wouldn't be surprised if rankings were weird. And again, it's not even the Knicks, but it's just a reminder that, oh yeah, things are not always as they seem. And the Knicks are not as close to the Celtics as we thought. We thought the Celtics, nobody's afraid of the Celtics. The league's still a little bit wide open. Anybody can win the title. They're even better than they were last year. And could the Magic be a weird team? Just throwing that out there at the end of a stream. Ending off on a hot take. But shout out to Inside the NBA. To Kenny, to Charles. The live. If they're doing live shows, people, we might have to reconsider the live streaming schedule and just be at one of these shows. Can we do a live stream from the audience at a show? That might be the most obnoxious thing that we do. So we probably won't do that, but we will enjoy watching it, and we will go start doing that right now. So thank you guys for jumping on the stream, for hanging out, for watching a real stinker of a game, but make no mistake, there's a lot good ones in the mix. But thank you guys for dropping in, for staying tuned, and follow the streams if you haven't, at Rem and Sam on Instagram, at Rem and Sam Podcast. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, whatever social media platform is out there, we are there at the Rem and Sam Podcast. So again, thank you guys for listening, and have a good night.